got a nice quote here for you. I've supported blue laws, state laws that shut down business on certain days like Thanksgiving, because these days are sacred. And everyone ought to be able to participate in them equally. But we've got a long way to go. Any suggestions who said this? Let me surprise you with your vice president. And what is surprising here, I've supported blue laws. Do you know what blue laws are? Yes. Blue laws are laws that the early colonies adopted to maintain Sunday sacredness. And in one of the states, I think it was Virginia, first offense, penalty, second offense, prison, third offense, execution. That's how simple it was. And so here we've got a vice president supporting blue laws and then declaring other days like Thanksgiving. Is Thanksgiving sacred? I don't think so. But in his mind, Sunday is sacred, and that's why he says, but we've got a long way to go to get that Sunday sacredness going, so it seems. By the way, this book came out in June of this year, where he describes his conversion process to Catholicism. Faith is not he says in the book, faith is not a weird little compartment of my life, something I appeal to for an hour or two on Sundays. It is the lens through which I see the world. So he sees the world through the Catholic eye, through the Catholic mind, and he also has a Catholic objective. And it is interesting that the spirit of prophecy says, even in free America, rulers and legislators like J.D. Vance, in order to secure public favor, will yield to popular demand for a law enforcing Sunday observance. So there will be a trend, a situation in which people will, by popular demand, people will request that this is to be had for their benefit. And while the legislators actually know that it is not correct, they will see to it. We know that this is described in Revelation 13, the beast that comes out with certain laws. Now I would like to draw your attention to a second fact that he brings out in this book. So the first thing relates to blue laws, Sunday, Sabbath. The second is an interesting story. Let me go just one slide back to keep your mind off the slide. J.D. Vance, J.D. Vance bought a cemetery from a cousin of his where their family members are buried, and there's nothing wrong with it in that sense. But in his book he writes the following: I walk in that ancient plot of land and speak to people long dead, some of them gone before my grandmother was even born. I've visited that cemetery before every major life decision, from proposing to Usha, his wife, to running for the Senate. Now, he doesn't go to this graveyard to put flowers on the grave. What does he do there? He talks to the dead. I talk to my grandparents and to my great-grandparents like patron saints of the episodes and emotions we all experience in the course of life. I talk to Mama when I need strength or focus, or to Papa when I need wisdom. I talk to Mama's mother, Mama Blanton, when I need kindness or empathy, and to her father, Papa Blaine, whom I never met, when I need toughness. Is that... scary. I just wanted to say, that is eerie, isn't it? That is really scary. We've got a vice president who pushes for Sunday law and who believes in Spiritism. He practices Spiritism. I wanted to preserve this outdoor temple of the dead for my family and the sake of those buried. I bought it so that when I'm buried, my children will have a place to visit and speak to their ancestors. Are the dead dead, or do the dead live? And if the dead talk to you, to whom do you talk? You talk to demons who impose as the living. I had a patient of mine who lost her mother, and I said, I'm very sorry to hear that you lost your mother. My sincere, how do you say? Condolences. And she says, oh, yeah, no, don't worry. I talk to her every day. Ooh. And I swallowed, and I wanted to talk, but there was no possibility at that situation. And the thing is that when people have spoken to the dead and have heard the voice of their mama or papa or grandpapa, they believe that this is real because they heard the voice. Fortunately, we live in the age of AI, where some of you might have made the experience that the voice of a loved one actually talked to you on the phone and you thought it was them. And you later found out it was AI. So that is a little spin-off. Now, this is very small print, but I would like to share something here with you. So I went to AI, ChatGPT, and I said, please give me a list of the denominations that teach conditional immortality. The soul is not inherently immortal. Immortality is granted only to the saved, and or soul sleep. The dead are unconscious till the resurrection of Christ's return. The denominations that teach this are Seventh-day Adventists, number 1. Christadelphians, number 2. Have you ever met a Christadelphian? Neither do I. But I have to make sure about this, but I think they take their name from the Philadelphian experience, the early Adventist experience. Jehovah's Witnesses, the founder fathers of the Jehovah's Witnesses were familiar with Adventist teaching, and that is where they got it from. Church of God, Seventh Day, so they also have something to do with the Sabbath. The Church of God, Abrahamic faith, they believe in this. I do not know where they come from. Bible students or associated Bible students is a spin-off group, an early spin-off group of Jehovah's Witnesses. There you've got the connection to the guys who were familiar with Seventh-day Adventist teaching. That's where they get this from. So we are pretty much alone with the Jehovah's Witnesses. They've got a church out of town that believe this. And when you look at the broader stream, then you see that some Mennonite and Brethren circles coming from the Anabaptists, they believe this. There are some figures in the Anglican and evangelical annihilationists that mean that word means that the wicked ones will eventually be blotted out of existence. And I do not know whether you can read it here. It says here there's a guy by the name of Edward Fudge. Now, I happened to have this book here, his book. It is called The Fire That Consumes. And interestingly, Fudge was funded by Robert Brinsmead. Anybody ever heard about Robert Brinsmead? He was a Seventh-day Adventist renegade from Australia, an avocado farmer. And I do not know for what reason, he met this Edward Fudge, and he said, if you want to, you can study the topic of death, sleep, resurrection, soul, immortality, and I'll leave it up to you to come to your conclusions. I will fund you till you have come to your conclusions. And this Edward Fudge accepted this, started to study the subject, and ended up with a book that was called The Fire That Consumes, meaning that the wicked will one day cease to exist. And he was an evangelical. That was interesting. What I also found very interesting is that Martin Luther himself actually believed in soul sleep. Martin Luther was also familiar with the Sabbath truth. One of his close associates, by the name of Karlstadt, actually became a Sabbath keeper. But unfortunately, as AI puts it here, this was not institutionalized. So the Lutherans today, they do not believe in the Sabbath, and they believe in the immortality of the soul. And just want to go to this quote now from The Great Controversy. It says here, through the two great errors, the immortality of the soul and Sunday sacredness, Satan will bring the people under his deceptions, while the former lays the foundation for spiritualism. You know, if the souls are still alive and you can communicate with them, that is the basis for spiritualism. And the latter, Sunday sacredness, creates a bond of sympathy with Rome. The Protestants of the United States will be the foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism, while they will reach over the abyss to clasp the hand of the Roman power, and under the influence of this threefold union, namely apostate Protestantism, spiritualism, and the Roman power, this country will follow in the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. So you are today in a sanctuary. We call this place a sanctuary, but you are in the right place. It's truly a sanctuary because you're protected from the first lie that was ever uttered, which was, you shall surely not die, when God had said you will die if you eat of this fruit. And you believe that God said, remember to keep the Sabbath holy. That's why you're in a safe place. The other thing that I thought was very interesting is that our Supreme Court, here you see in the red circle the religious convictions of the Supreme Court judges, and you see of the 9, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Catholic judges that operate in their minds with immortality of the soul and Sunday blue laws. So you see, we live in very interesting times, and the wiring is done. It is ready to go live. May you be ready when that time has come. Thank you very much.